Hey girl, hey. So I am sure that you have heard of peptides for body composition. Probably most definitely. But the two I'm going to cover today are for your brain: Selank, 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 and Semax, Semax. Two of my favorite research peptides. These are for brain fog, anxiety, stress, all the things that none of us are experiencing, I'm sure, and looking at stress response. So that's the direction we are going today. So if you've been in my peptide series since the beginning, you know we're going with the heavy hitters, and I would consider these in my experimentation heavy hitters for me, especially being deeply in perimenopause. Today we are going to move away from body comp peptides, and we're going to move into brain assistance. I'm struggling today. I've been researching two peptides for my brain support because, man, brain fog and loss of words is real. And I'm in school full time. Well, no, it feels like full time. I'm a part time student and I'm running a few businesses and I'm a mom, etc., etc. My brain needs some help. And I don't want to lean on pharmaceuticals right now. I do have Buspar, but it's not immediate acting, so I wasn't thrilled with that option. So I had to go dig deep, especially when it comes to anxiety, because I have all of a sudden, out of nowhere, been experiencing anxiety that I don't recall having in my younger years. And the brain fog that nobody ever wants. And then the stress response. Oh my God, the stress response. I don't know about you, but my stress response is almost, it feels like it's 100% dialed up. Like I'm running at 200% stress response, and it can come in when I least expect it, especially when I'm driving because we live in a major metropolitan area, or even more so as a passenger. So the peptides we're going to talk about today are Semax and Selank. And if you've never heard of them, well, welcome to my video. That's why we're here. All right, on a quick note before we get started, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm a coach. I'm a holistic nutrition student. I have my master's in sport and health science. And I'm a woman doing research in real time, perimenopause, mother of two. And I am absolutely not telling you what to do. I'm sharing this because I was curious, and I assume there are people out there who are just as curious as I was and miserable. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if you're on medications or managing any kind of health conditions, always go talk to your physician first. All right, here we go. All right, if you're in perimenopause, I am sure if you are here, you are familiar with things like brain fog, anxiety, and stress, dysregulation, all sorts of new things that either were minor before or completely new now. And we're not talking about things that are lifestyle problems that are cropping up because you're moving less or moving more. That's not the direction we're going here. We're talking neurological, your brain, BDNF and neuroprotection, the brain being the target organ here. So here's a little context as to why I even started researching at all. I was miserable. I felt bad for everybody around me, and it has been a 1 year learning process for me working through experimenting with peptides. But that's why I started researching, because I could no longer be as miserable as I was. So if you've watched my hormone series on this channel, you're going to know that perimenopause isn't just a reproductive event. That's a misnomer, like many things in women's health. It absolutely affects your brain directly. We have estrogen receptors all over our brain. They live in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. And I swear, the tongue-tiedness and mispronouncing of words is absolutely perimenopause. And it drives me nuts that this happens when I sit down to record this. But I'm also like, okay, well, at least you're going to see it in real time. And then maybe I'm not alone. But estrogen receptors live on the brain, in the prefrontal cortex, on the hippocampus. The memory and focus is here. These are the centers for that. And now my ear itches. So when estrogen starts to fluctuate, those areas are going to feel it. Brain fog. It is a physiological response to a hormone shift. It's not you losing your mind. So if that's how you were feeling, please take a deep breath and relax. Stay here. Let's talk. And for a lot of us, always including myself here, the anxiety and the inability to handle stress that we used to handle better, potentially. This isn't all of a sudden you've had a personality change. Don't let anybody convince you or try to tell you that. I've had that happen too. It is a nervous system under pressure. Your nervous system under pressure can present with things like anxiety, lack of ability to handle stress, etc. So when I started going down the peptide research rabbit hole, and I came across 2 peptides that are specifically studied, yes, studied, for cognitive support, anxiety reduction, and stress resilience, you better bet I kept reading. Semax and Selank were both originally discovered/developed in Russia. We're going to get into a little bit of the science because I think it's important. So Semax is derived from a fragment of ACTH, which is a hormone your body already produces. It's inside your body. Selank is derived from a naturally occurring peptide in your body called tuftsin, Tuftsin. Both are neuropeptides, meaning they act in the nervous system, and both have a body of research behind them, mostly from Russian and Eastern European institutions. So the research base isn't going to be the same as you might find for BPC 157, body protection, I always screwed up, BPC, whatever, or semaglutide in terms of volume, but the research does exist. And what it points to is definitely interesting enough for me to be sitting here talking to you about it. All right, so we're going to start with Semax. The mechanism that caught my attention here was the BDNF, which is the brain-derived neurotropic factor. BDNF is essentially a growth protein for your brain. It supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones. So think of it as fertilizer for your brain cells. And BDNF naturally declines with age, like so many other things that we are discovering and learning and talking about here. And research also has found that it declines in the context of things like chronic stress and hormonal changes, which means for women going through perimenopause, this is relevant. So Semax has been shown in research to upregulate your BDNF. It's also been shown to interact with the systems that regulate mood and motivation. And there's research out there looking at cognitive performance now and focus, and what researchers are describing as improved stress tolerance. And it has been used clinically in Russia for, guess what? I was kind of shocked by this: stroke recovery and cognitive impairment. And that's far from being a small thing. We aren't talking about a supplement that claims to support focus. We're talking about a compound that has been studied in clinical neurological contexts. So the most common delivery route you're going to see is intranasal, meaning a nasal spray. I haven't used that, but I know some people who have, and I know people who make it. And dosing in this research varies, as it does, but common dosing ranges run between 200 to 600 milligrams per administration. I don't use it intranasally. I use it sub-Q, and I've noticed that I have significant improvements in clarity of my thought, and it feels different than caffeine because people always want to see if you can compare it to that, but I wouldn't even say it compares. I don't get the jitters that you get or that I would get with caffeine. It's really truly more like the noise in the background just gets quieter. And I get more focused, and that's probably the best I can describe that. I cycle it as opposed to using it daily. This is just my personal experience. I use it when I'm struggling, or I know I need to do a lot of focusing, or I need to record a lot of content, etc. It seems to really be a big hitter for me as I experiment with it for that. All right, now we're going to move on to Selank, and this one made me stop and pause and have to digest what I was learning multiple times throughout my research. So Selank is, bear with me, classified as an anxiolytic, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, peptide. That means its primary studied effect is anxiety reduction. And if you watch video 26, progesterone, on my channel, this is going to click. It's gonna all coming back to you. So if you watch the video in my series on progesterone, you're gonna know that progesterone converts to a neurosteroid that acts on your GABA receptors, but it's GABA-A receptors. GABA is the nervous system's calm down signal. So when progesterone decreases in perimenopause, GABA activity drops. And that being excited, wired, can't settle down feeling that many of us are living in, that is part of what is happening. Selank appears to interact with the same receptors, and the research describes it as having a calming effects without sedation, without dependency risk, and without the cognitive dulling that comes with benzos. There's also research that has been done on Selank degrading the body's natural mood stabilizing peptides, because remember, peptides are all naturally occurring in our bodies already, and some work on immune modulation, which I personally find very exciting and interesting, especially from the perimenopause context/lens, because the immune system is another part of the body that estrogen has a big hand in regulating. And Selank can be administered intranasally, often blended with Semax or sub-Q, which is how I personally experiment and use it. In my own experience, again, completely anecdotal, just an experiment, I would also describe Selank as reducing my background noise and anxiety, but not like a sedation effect at all. I don't feel checked out, just less reactive, which has been great. Like the volume of my stress response just got dialed back a few notches. And given what I have learned about how perimenopause affects our GABA system, I find that, as a nerd, very interesting. So, oftentimes Selank, God, why can't I talk? Oftentimes Selank and Semax are mixed, aka we call it stacked over here in the pepper community. And it's used for a cognitive lift and to reduce anxiety. There's a lot of research and community discussion going on around about these two peptides, and you're going to often see them mentioned together. And that makes a lot of sense based on their mechanisms. Semax tends to be described as more stimulating, cognitive clarity, focus, BDNF support. Selank tends to be described as more calming, the anxiety floor, stress tolerance, GABA support. Together, some researchers and self-experimenters describe them as providing kind of like a grounded clarity, and I concur. Alert, not wired, calm without fogginess. What I want to be clear about is neither of these peptides is doing hormone work. If your estrogen is cratering and your progesterone is gone, Semax and Selank are not the answer to that. The hormonal foundation has to be there. So what I see them as in my own research is a nervous system layered support on top of hormone work, which I love, on top of nutrition, on top of sleep, on top of stress reduction techniques, not instead of any of those. It is not a one size fixes all here. So if you're new to peptides, my channel has a whole series and I'm going to build it from the ground up. Start at video 1. It's going to give you foundational framing before you go down rabbit holes. But also feel free to share those rabbit holes with me and come over here and have the conversation with me. I love it. Clearly, because why would I sit here and talk about this if I wasn't madly in love with what I'm learning? If Selank and Semax are something that you want to learn more about, research further, great, amazing, welcome to the club. Pick your rabbit holes carefully. There's good information and there's bad information out there. I'd suggest vetting some Discord groups, looking at some doctors who have more information on this. Be mindful of who they are and where they come from and where their intentions lie also, because not everybody has the best of intentions. I'm not on here to sell you any peptides. Be mindful of somebody whose only goal and mission is to do that. Always go look at multiple sources. Be sure to look at the research, not just the antidotes. And if you're in perimenopause and brain fog, anxiety, stress, feels like they moved into your house permanently, please know there are real physiological reasons for this, and it's not all in your head. Don't let somebody shame you for this. And there are real things out there worth knowing about. That's what I do here. Let's have these convos. Nothing here, again, is medical advice. I am not a doctor. I am not your doctor. I'm a holistic nutrition student, a mother, and a woman in perimenopause living through this in real time. Always consult a qualified provider before you make any decisions. Peptide research is an evolving space. Be sure to get advice from your doctor, especially if you're on any medications or have health conditions. And girl, if you haven't done something to love yourself today, please go do that. And if you don't know what that looks like, send me a message and I'll help you out. All my love. Until next time.